Jeffrey's convinced that he's found a good girl, but let's just look at her traits. Colored hair, tattoos, traveled the world, Let's take a look at her Instagram profile. Oh, a guy. A stranger that she's been traveling with. Oh, another little fun party festival. Come on, Jeffrey. I understand that you want intimacy and love and affection and you want to have such a beautiful connection to another person. But the choice of woman that you love is one of the most important decisions of your life, and it should not be done emotionally. It should not be done out of scarcity. Young Jeffrey, you don't realize the pain that you're setting up future you to suffer through. Adonis is a godly man, and for that reason he has avoided the pitfall of degeneracy that has trapped our generation. But even for Adonis, it was not easy. He was still plagued by lust and pleasure. He still had the same urges, but Adonis was able to control his actions, the one thing he did have power over. Because of that, he was able to cultivate such a beautiful family life that he is so grateful for. I had a feminist teacher in high school. So she used to teach us psychology, but she was also my form teacher. So when I would go to school, you'd go to like a classroom, which was like your classroom, like your form. For 10 minutes or so, you'd kind of sign in, be with your friends in your form, and then you'd go to the proper classes like maths, English, whatever. So I would see her in the first 10 minutes of school, the last 10 minutes of school, and then also maybe for an hour class if I had psychology that day. One day I had psychology class, so obviously I just stayed inside of this classroom with my form teacher, and she starts teaching us about feminism. I don't even think it was relevant to what we were learning, because feminism would be, gender studies or sociology, but yeah, she mentioned it in a psychology class. And she starts talking about how in lots of countries women don't have rights, and it's still a problem. Even in the UK, women are still biased against, and there's problems with sexism, and men are this, men are that. And she starts to explain the different kinds of feminism. There's like the liberal feminists, the radical feminists. I don't remember the other characters, like the DLC map pack, new character unlocked at level 7, like radical feminist. And then she makes us do something really embarrassing. She tells everyone to stand up, and she says, "Go stand on that side of our room if you're a feminist and you believe women deserve equal rights. Go stand on that side of the room if you're not a feminist and you believe women don't deserve equal rights." Straight away, you can see the manipulation there. She's acting as if feminism equals women's rights, which we'll talk about. It actually doesn't at all. Bear in mind, I'm 14, 15 years old, and I'd love to tell you that I had a massive pair of balls and I confidently went over to the not a feminist, not a dumbass side of the class, and confidently said my point against all these women, but I did not. I went and stood on that side, and I said, yeah, well, because women, men and women are equal, and I was just spewing some fucking bullshit when she was going one by one to ask us like why we were stood on that side. And it might not surprise you to know that there were actually 2 girls who stood on that side. What kind of girls do you think they were? At the time, I didn't think much of this, but when I look back now, I have such respect for these 2 girls. Think about the situation we're in. The adult teacher has just gaslit us to basically say, okay, go stand on that side of the wall or you're a bad person. And 2 particular girls stood on that side to say that they were not feminists. They were both brown and Muslim. At the time, this was high school, I suffered like a lot of racism growing up. I kind of detached away from like my brown Pakistani Muslim culture. And so I couldn't imagine anything worse than standing out amongst the white atheists that were around me. So I didn't really think much of these girls standing over there. I actually thought like, yeah, they're kind of weird, whatever. My teacher was a little bit shocked. Like she maybe was getting ready for like a guy, maybe like me, to stand over there, because then she can just gaslight them. Bear in mind, most teachers are very emotionally unintelligent and they're actually alcoholics, and that's a separate story, but I could tell you some like dirty stories about teachers. Like when you start matching with teachers on Tinder and Bumble and you start drinking and fornicating with them, you start seeing a different side to teachers where you're like, holy shit, these are still absolute degenerates. But yeah, that being said, I think she was like wanting a a fight like my teacher. You know, she wanted to be able to kind of bully a child into saying that they were feminists. But when these two girls stood on that side, she was quite shocked, and she actually was interested to ask them why. And I remember them saying something briefly about their religion, Islam. But also one of the biggest points that they had was that women in this country, in the UK, have equal rights, but women in other countries don't, and that's where the effort should be. And everyone largely actually agreed with that, including my teacher. When I tell you this story, it almost doesn't even sound real, because even though it's not such a big deal, it's such a lack of professionalism. You know, like a teacher who has been made responsible to look after children, like we were only 14 years old, had this weird ego that she wanted to be fulfilled because she was like a feminist teacher. I swear to God, she was a full-on feminist. I remember never feeling okay and safe to actually voice my opinion until 10 however many years it's been now, when I can proudly tell you, and maybe it's not even a flex, but I can proudly tell you that I am not a feminist. I am absolutely not, because I actually like women and I want women to have good lives. And I personally believe that feminists are genuinely evil people, and feminists are misogynists. You know how the term misogynist is thrown around, misogyny? It basically means someone who hates women and wants to see them suffer. Who hates women more and wants to see them suffer more than the feminists who set up a culture where now women have to go commute for an hour in the morning, go take orders from some boss, get sexually assaulted or harassed or groped every 6 to 12 months in their workplace with, like, you know, the fucking weird guy who's always trying to hit on her and everything, then commute 1 hour back home just because that's actually more empowering than being a mother and having a husband. Who has hurt women more and set them up to suffer if not for the feminists who normalized sex and being a degenerate, who told women to fuck more? They've convinced women to suck more Chad cock. Like, not just like husband and, you know, the guy that they're in love with, because that would be a wholesome thing of like improving the sex life of couples. Okay, fair enough. That's actually, like, that's not even haram or degenerate. That's actually really wholesome, right? When you get married and you want to have children, you'd want to have a really good sex life with your woman. But these evil demons, these feminists, they've convinced women that they should just sleep around with the most attractive guy available. What these people are not intelligent enough to understand is that then the same guy is fucking 10, 20, 30, 50, 100, 200, 500 girls. Because if girls now are just sleeping with the guy who's physically attractive and has like a bit of like charm to him, instead of the guy who will actually commit and be like a really stable man of character to be a husband and a father, well then all girls are just going to be sleeping with the hot guys. And these hot guys are loving life. They're pounding every girl that they possibly want. They're not going to commit to any of these girls because they don't need to. They're getting all the sex, all the intimacy, but with none of the cost of commitment that would usually entail in a relationship or a marriage. So feminists have convinced your future wife that casual sex is good. It was the push of the birth control pill. And I'm going to give you a really brutal red pill here. There are more and more cases of couples who are now splitting up because they met when the woman was taking birth control and the woman was not informed on what birth control would do to her. When women take birth control, they can't get pregnant. When that happens, they start to prefer softer features in men. Think about that for a second. When a woman takes this pill, she can no longer get pregnant. If she can't get pregnant, she doesn't want the sort of ultra masculine dominant traits that she usually would want if she could get pregnant. Now she wants a bit more of like these softer, less sexual features, you know, the guy who's a bit more safer and stable. So she then chooses like this soft looking guy. This is the rise of like the TikTok boy, the softer guys, the weaker guys. She gets into a pretty good relationship with them. Eventually she wants to come off the birth control pill because it's extremely unhealthy, fucks up her hormone system. There's a big YouTuber who's really educated in like the hormonal spaces. His name is Derek from More Plates, More Dates. And the phrase he used once really stuck to me. You know what he called birth control? He called it chemical castration. That's what these women are taking. Why are they taking that, by the way? Because casual sex, basically. And of course, there's other reasons, but a large part of it is casual sex. So these women take the pill, they prefer softer features in guys, so then she starts dating you. You think of yourself like, yeah, alpha male, you know, masculine guy, but she meets you and she's on birth control because she's attracted to you. You don't really pick this up right now. What happens when she comes off birth control because of any reason, whether she wants to get pregnant now or she wants to just go off for the health reasons? Her natural attraction to more masculine, dominant, alpha alpha male type men comes back. So what we're seeing is the rise of couples who get together when the woman is taking birth control, and when she stops taking birth control, this is the red pill, and she can start getting pregnant again. She doesn't want to be with a soft looking TikTok boy, little soft guy. She starts to prefer more masculine, more dominant traits and features in a guy. So imagine meeting a girl who's awesome. You hear that she takes the pill, but you didn't really know much about it, and everything's going really well. She eventually decides to get off the pill, maybe because you guys want to have children or for whatever reason, and then she doesn't even find you sexually attractive anymore, and she starts to find like way more dominant, you know, like bigger beard, bigger size, fucking Neanderthal looking, like not that dimorphic, like not that masculine, but she starts to find those guys more attractive and you less attractive. The brutal red pill in this is that when she can't get pregnant, she wants more of these softer TikTok boy looking guys. When she can get pregnant, she wants more of the alpha male type guy. Along with this, there's the culture that you've seen from like feminists, the you go girl culture. If a girl talks about partying and, you know, she posts a picture on Instagram, she's gonna go out to like a party tonight, she's gonna go hook up with some guys. Of course, every girl is watching this is gonna say, well, I don't go out to party. Shut the fuck up, right? Of course, women will say that shit. You don't listen to women, basically. That's just the truth. Any woman who tells you, well, I don't go out to to suck dick, I don't go out to get guys. Yeah, like what the fuck? Like, did you really think that's a flex? Did any girl ever say, I go out to suck cock? Of course not. I expect a woman to say, I don't go out to get guys. If you go out, that's the fucking red flag in itself. That's the red flag. And then now women who are watching this, if they get pissed off, they can start projecting and hating on me. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I am a flawed human being. I am a work in progress. I am not trying to say that, oh yeah, I'm too good for you. Whatever hate comment they want to leave and whatever they can do. But this is just a fact. The you go girl culture, where women will encourage other women to sleep around, is absolutely crazy. Imagine again, your future wife is out there somewhere, and she actually would have stayed completely pure and wholesome and just basically waiting for you without even knowing who you were. That level of dedication that she had to her future husband, that she didn't even know who he was. Then imagine that we just implant one feminist friend into her life, and that feminist is going up to your future wife and saying, oh, he's hot. Wow, he's looking at you. You should go speak to him. Did you see who liked your Instagram picture? Now, again, girls will chat some shit and say, girls don't speak like, you know, they'll say all this bullshit. I'm telling you right now, yes, they do. I'm not going to give you any more of these disclaimers, like girls will say this, whatever. I'm just going to give you one quote. If you want to learn how to fish, you ask the fisherman, not the fish. You ask the man who's learned enough about women to be able to attract them, date them, have sex with them, and to understand them, rather than the fish itself that doesn't really know why it acts. The truth is, most people do not have that level of self-awareness. So just bear that in mind. Any excuse you hear from women when they say, oh no, my friends don't talk like this, I don't go out to get with guys, I just go out to drink with my girls. A lot of women, and just people in general, don't have the level of self-awareness to be able to tell you the truth in logical terms, like, I go out roughly 10 times a year, and off those 10 times, I hook up with someone 2 times. Instead, she'll say, I don't go out to get guys. The truth is that she's having sex with 2 or 3 guys per year, but in her mind, she doesn't do that. Does that make sense? It's kind of like when you're quitting porn and you're quitting masturbation, but you do it like, you know, so infrequently that you still think to yourself like, yeah, I'm not a fapper, I'm not a wanker. But like, you still did it like 20 times this year though. It's like that, you know, the number still adds up. Like, nobody cares what you say. Honestly, never listen to like anyone's words, honestly. Just think about their actions. And if you don't know their actions, then you just have to speculate. And the way that you speculate, you look at the behavior that they have publicly shown. So I'm going to teach you now how to like guess a woman's body count. You never ask, because they're not going to tell you the truth. That in itself already proves to you that women actually know that body count isn't an attractive thing. Women know that casual sex is bad and it devalues them. If you can't ask her, because she's going to lie, even good girls lie about the number. And also a lot of girls just kind of forget and they act like that doesn't count. If, you know, one guy only had sex with them for 30 seconds, it doesn't count, whatever. The way that you guess a woman's body count is by looking at what behavior she has shown publicly. So her Instagram, her TikTok, the way she behaves, tattoos, colorful hair, father in the home or not, father a pussy or not, mother, hoe or not. Don't mean to be disrespectful, but you understand the point. Hoe friends, are they sleeping around? Are they going out drinking, partying? What environments are they going into? Has she been taking drugs? Is she going into completely degen environments like festivals, parties, nightclubs? You gather this as like an image of her, and then you just think, okay, probably too much. Oh, you know what? I don't see a single piece of evidence that she's ever even went on like a night out to the club or to some D-gen house party. Okay, that's pretty good. And her father is a strong, masculine, dominant Muslim man who's still married to the mother. Okay, really good sign, right? You just piece these things together. If you're wondering like, why should you care about a woman's body count? It's because it completely correlates with her chance of divorcing you and also cheating on you. A lot of people online say that it's to avoid her inability to pair bond. So basically, the argument is that the more a woman sleeps around, the less that she can pair bond with you. And there might be actually research that shows that, but I'll tell you from practicality, that's actually not so much the case. Any guy who's been like a hoe or DJ himself will tell you that you can get with a girl who has slept around quite a lot before you, and she can still actually pair bond and attach to you no problem. It's not about that. It's not about her inability to like you or to be nice to you or to connect with you. It's more that if she has slept around before you, most likely her attitude towards sex is going to be toxic for your relationship. It's going to be like a risk for your relationship. She still every now and then, once a year, 3 times a year, will want to go out to nights out with her friends on their birthdays. You know, she'll tell you like, yeah, I don't go out, I don't drink, I don't party. But you know the kind of girl who says that, but she still does. That girl is still gonna fight for her yearly girls trip to Ibiza or some shit. She's still gonna fight for like the quarterly night out when it's her friend's birthday. The girl who has a higher body count will do those things more often, and then she's basically just putting herself in a position which is risky for you, because she's gonna put herself in a position where other guys are gonna come up and hit on her. And you might think that you're so confident that you don't really care about that, but it's not about like, oh, well, I'm so secure with my girl, I know she wouldn't do anything. It's like, why would you put yourself in a D-gen environment? It's just not a respectful thing. She's spending 3 hours getting ready for this night out, not because she wants to look good next to her friends, because they would just stay in and have like a fun time together. She's spending 3 hours getting ready, and she'll never be able to admit this, but it's again for the you go girl culture, because they know that attractive guys will be there as well. So where have we gotten up to? We've gotten to the point that feminists have convinced your future wife that she should sleep around, take the birth control pill, whatever, and now her body count's higher, and then she's less of a marriage material girl. Not only that, like the specific brutal part of her having sex with lots of guys before she meets you, but also just how free women are in showing their bodies. What a lot of women don't really grasp is that men lose respect for a woman who's shown her body. Now again, like there's a lot of guys out there who will say like, oh, I don't care, I'm really confident. That's like, you know, like a mask, and they're actually crying behind that. Like all guys want a girl who doesn't show her body to other guys. It's that simple. That's it. There's a few guys out there with like mental illnesses who actually find that pleasurable. You know, when you go into a hotel room, there's always like a random fucking chair that faces the bed. Those guys will sit on that chair and just watch their girl get plowed by Tyrone or some weird shit. Like there's a few guys with mental illnesses who want to get cocked. Okay, fine. But for most guys, you don't want your girl to have sex with other guys. And so along with that, you don't want your girl to be perceived by other guys. You don't want her to market her body to other guys. Problem again with feminists is that they've convinced girls that it's an absolutely okay and acceptable thing for them to take pictures of their bodies and then post it online with thirst traps, TikToks, OnlyFans, sex work. So that has then lowered your attraction and respect for women as a whole. Like, let me know if this has happened to you. You can meet like a really awesome girl, and then you see on her Instagram or TikTok, it's just too revealing. You know, it's like she's showing her body, and not in like a, you know, a fitness kind of way, but just genuinely like she's like basically twerking on cam, or she's doing some stupid TikTok dance where she wants her body to be seen. She wants to be seen as like basically a piece of meat. She wants to, even though she'll find that disrespectful to say. They're portraying themselves just through their body. And when you see that with a wholesome girl, you're gonna lose respect for her. Now, if you're in a position of like scarcity mindset, you're not really attracting girls, then you might still pursue this girl just because she's still like the best girl that you've got. But you'll never respect her to the point of really wanting to take things like super seriously, considering her for marriage or for kids. You might have those conversations. Something's always in the back of your mind thinking like, but she's not that kind of girl though. Like your wife is not twerking on Instagram. She's absolutely not. She absolutely does not have tons of pictures pictures from all these places that she's like traveled to with her hoe friends. You know, like random bits where there's like a random hot guy next to her. It's like just the friend that she met at the hostel. That's not wife material. And that's fine. You know, if a girl said, yep, I'm not wife material, I don't give a fuck, I'd say, okay, fine. The problem is that these girls still believe that they're wife material. They still argue for it. They still try and make you believe that they are as well. And again, you can argue, well, Hamza, you're not a husband material guy. And yeah, you might be right, but I'm not sat here trying to argue that I am. If a woman said to me, and there's been women who've said this to me before, that I'm not the kind of like man that they want to be with, I accept that. I don't try and manipulate and trick and lie them into believing that I'm some other kind of guy. I think, well, yeah, fair enough. If our values don't align, if you're not attracted to me, if you don't like traits that I have, then fair enough. I'm not going to blame you for that. You're allowed to be into who you want. The world just has a problem when men have standards and preferences. Like when a woman says she wants a guy who's like this, who's super successful and tall and handsome, and he works really hard, but he's also got a lot of time for her and all, you know, all the traits that women want. It's just like, yeah, you go girl, you get whatever you want. When a guy says he wants like a girl who hasn't slept with 5 guys, 10 guys, 20 guys before him, he's insecure, he's an asshole, he's manipulative, he's crazy, like he's controlling, whatever it is. And I'm just gonna tell you the truth, when it comes to traveling with women, this rule will serve you well, and I might seem like a weirdo for saying this, but just assume that every country or every trip that a girl has been on, she slept with like 1 or 2 guys. Again, loads of girls will see this and be like, no, that's toxic, no, I haven't, you just don't even understand girls, whatever. I'm just telling you from like the perspective of the guy who knows. Assume at least 1 or 2, sometimes more, sometimes less, but if you just average it to 1. So for example, if you go onto her Instagram, pictures of her and her friends in Greece, pictures of her and her friends in, I don't know, Mexico or some shit, and then another trip and another one and another one, just assume 1 per trip. And so if she's went on like 4 countries in the last year with her and her friends all dressed up on a night out in Greece, and they're all gonna go like drink and party, they're talking about the Greek guy that like she hooked up with even a year later. Even when you're together with her in like a happy relationship, you know it will be like a conversation point in her and her friends group chat. Oh, that hot Greek guy from that trip just liked my picture. You do realize like that's what's going to happen with a girl who's had so many experiences with so many men. Those guys come back into her life. They come back, they pop up again, and she'll screenshot it, send it to her friends, and they'll kind of laugh and giggle. And let's say she doesn't even cheat on you, she doesn't even go back to Greece or anything, but still, doesn't that get to you? And maybe I'm just insecure, maybe that's it, maybe I'm just weirdly more insecure than every other guy out there. But do you feel the same pain that I feel if you visualize this, that you get with your wife? Absolutely amazing. You didn't really know, but when she went on some random holiday with her friends or a random night out with her friends like 2 years ago, she just hooked up with some guy who just pounded her for that night. She never told you about it, you never really knew. That's bad enough, right? You'd probably agree that's pretty fucking disgusting. But that guy will try and message her again 6 months later, 1 year later, 2 years later. He will like one more of her pictures. And even if she doesn't go and cheat on you with him, just the fact that she'll get some kind of flashback, doesn't that just gross you out? Isn't that unattractive? Maybe we're all insecure. Maybe that's what it is. That's what a lot of these women would want us to believe. We're insecure, we're controlling and stuff. If that means that every single man in the world is insecure, then maybe so be it. Maybe we are insecure. If that's your values, maybe you don't want to be dating a girl who's had this feminist influence on her. Then we have even weird criticisms that I have with feminism. One of them is statistical manipulation. Remember the story I told you that in high school my feminist teacher made a stand on other sides, whatever? She actually told us about a statistic, which was that on average, men earn 7 to 13% more than women. And this was called the gender wage gap. You've probably heard this before, especially if you're like over 20 years old. Women were speaking about this for so long. Feminists were ranting about this. People were rioting in the streets and everything. Do you know how they collected that data? Because this isn't about emotions, right? We don't give a fuck about like emotions. Oh, it feels like I'm being targeted. No. Let's talk about numbers. Do you know how they collected the data for the gender wage gap study? They took a massive sample of men, massive sample of women, got the average income for both groups, and then found out that men make more money than women. What they didn't account for was that men on average work longer hours. Women are way more likely to work part-time. They're way more likely to take more time off work. Men are more likely to pursue higher level, harder jobs, more riskier jobs, which pay more. Women are more likely to take gender studies and like social work and stuff. Okay, those fields can be important for society, but they pay less, and they knew this. So yes, when you look at the incomes of men and the incomes of women, men make more. Brutal fact that I have to say, and people are going to be pissed off at this, but I probably assume you're going to actually think, yeah, well, it's obviously right. Men work harder. It's just that simple. Men literally work more hours on average than women do. They work harder jobs, deadlier jobs. 99% of wartime deaths are men. 90-something% of deaths in the workplace are men. 90-something% of injuries in the workplace are men, because men take riskier, higher paying jobs. And I wouldn't even say that it should be any other way. This isn't a call for women to work these dangerous jobs like oil rigging or mining or some shit. But it's to give credit where credit's due. Men deserve to make more money. It's just that simple. Not for the same work, yeah, of course, but that's the lie that feminists try to convince everyone. Feminists try to convince us that, like, reality was my female feminist teacher making less money than a male teacher who was in the same kind of position. So imagine, in my classroom, I had that feminist teacher. We had a classroom next to ours, and their form teacher was a guy. Could you imagine him getting paid more than her because he was male? Fuck no! Of course not! That's blatantly sexist, and there'd be some like legal problems with the school if that happened. Of course that's not what's happening. It was never that, like, if a man and a woman worked the same jobs with the same hours with the same intensity and skill, that the man would just get paid more. That's complete fucking bullshit. You know why? Because newer data actually proves exactly what I just said. That when one person has the same job, hours, skill, and everything, gets paid more than the other. There actually is a gender wage gap now. There is. Only it's women who make about 5 to 7% more. So that statistic that they fucking manipulated us with and lied and guilt-shamed men and governments and schools and everything with to say that women make less money, we know that was a lie. They tried to act if it was a one-to-one match, the woman would make less money. Actually, newer data proves that if it was a one-to-one match and the man and the woman are working both the same kind of jobs for the same hours, women are actually more likely to make more now. You probably know why. It's because of a lot of this bullshit like affirmative action. Women are more likely to get the extra promotion, extra little pay raise or whatever, just because of, like, to stop sexism, we're gonna be sexist towards men and give women extra bonuses. So there is a gender wage gap. Does that not piss you off? Holy shit. Imagine being branded as like the bad person your entire life. Like, men are this, men are that, men are this, men make more money. And, you know, like, you've been looked at like the enemy of the state, of the school, of the teachers, of society. You've been looked at as the enemy just because you were born male. You were told that you had all this privilege. You have the privilege to be like 5 times more likely to kill yourself than women. You have the privilege to be 4 times more likely to be homeless than women. That's your privilege. You have the privilege to make 5 to 7% less money than a woman for doing the exact same work, and nobody gives a fuck. You know how this is the bullshit that pisses me off? You know, when we talk about feminism and someone will say, oh, feminism isn't about like equal rights. And then the feminists will say, no, yes, it is. Feminists want equal rights for men and women. It's like, it's for men as well. They'll like, they'll say some bullshit like feminism is for men as well. Where are they? Why are they not rioting in the streets? Men make 5% less money for the same work. Where are the feminist riots for that? Right? Where are the feminists for this? Most countries still won't draft women in the military. I'm not saying it's a good idea, but where are the feminists saying, yes, women should be drafted as well? Because it was never about equality. It was basically just one massive shit test. You know how when you're in a relationship with a girl, she'll test you. She'll test your frame. She'll pick at you. And people will think this is weird or anything, but the pickup artists know this. And even the spiritual guys know this. In multiple of the chapters of the book, The Way of the Superior Man, which is kind of like a guidebook for a masculine life, it talks about how a woman will test you to feel your masculinity. She wants you to basically say no to her, but she doesn't even know that she wants that. And so she'll test you to see if she can change your mind. She'll test you to see if you'll crumble in your idea and your perception of the world and your decisions just because she's said that maybe something's a bad idea. She wants to feel you like a rock. Like, these are words from like these spiritual textbooks. Feminism was just one test. It was women just seeing if they could get more and more and more. And the betaization and the reduction of testosterone of modern men allowed it to happen. We as like a generation of men, not even us, not even our generation, but those fools who are 40 to 80 years old, they allowed this to happen. They failed the shit test. They gave women too much power. And I know what I'm saying sounds crazy, but here's the most important points. Women actually don't want this either. Women are actually less happy now with the rise and the success of feminism. They've just been sent into the workplace to have a boss, to now have to pay taxes. Most women and most people are just miserable now, right? But you can imagine some woman who's 21 years old. She's really attractive. She like lives by herself in some like crappy little city apartment. She has a couple of friends that she drinks with. She fucks one new guy every 2 months or so, but she says that she doesn't do that. And she just spends most of her time at work and maybe like the gym. If you asked her like, are you deeply happy with your life? She'd say no. It's weird, you know, because if we asked her like, don't you just want to be like a mother and a wife and you could then stay at home and your full-time job would just be to look after your children instead of just pressing fucking keys on a keyboard for a company that you don't care about? Depending on how like plugged into the system she is, she'd say like, no, actually I like my freedom and stuff. But if we statistically tested her happiness through a psychological scale or some kind of questionnaire that we could validate was effective, we could see that she is statistically less happy, less fulfilled. Of course, because it's trading probably the single greatest, most fulfilling job role you could possibly have as a living creature, which is looking after your young, to being a customer service assistant for a company you don't give a fuck about. And now that like goofy guy is trying to hit on you every day. And it's unfortunate how much gaslighting the feminists will do to women, where they'll basically shame them if they do want more of this traditional role. Now, if we say this online, like you'll see on like some Instagram reels, again, the feminists will come in and say, no, feminism is about choice. Like it's the choice that women can do whatever they want. You've probably seen girls say that, right? Feminists say that. Here's the thing. If you've ever been on Instagram or TikTok and you've seen like a very clearly feminine, not feminist, but feminine girl, and she's talking about like, oh yeah, you know, I just stay at home. My husband's went out to work. I've made his lunch today and I've got my children. Feminism is about choice. Go and read the comments of the feminists literally attacking a woman because she posted like a cute video where she's saying like, oh, you know, my husband wakes up early, so I woke up with him to make him breakfast before he goes out and works. And see the attack that she gets, the shame that she gets from women who are like, ew, gross, couldn't be me, whatever. They're arguing for their boss. This is a brutal truth of women. And I don't mean to sound condescending, but it seems to be the case that women will always have some kind of authority figure over them. At first, it's their father. Eventually, it's either their husband or their boss. Feminism was the big move to make the workplace boss the authority figure for a woman instead of her husband or father. They just destroyed the family unit. And now your girl takes commands from her boss, which is such a weird, like, unnatural position to be in. Let's say you do attract like a really awesome girl, but she still has to like work full time, or she's choosing to. What a weird position that like she has kind of like another alpha male in her life that she obeys, whose orders she takes. She has to do what he says. Again, maybe I'm just insecure. I'm sure that's what so many people would say. Yep, you're just insecure that she's like obeying another man. Yep, I'm insecure, definitely. That must be it. Okay, I'm fine, I'm insecure. But that to me is fucking weird, is it not? Like if you get with a woman, should your relationship not just be you and her? You are the masculine, she is the feminine. If there's one person who is the leader, the dominant person of the relationship, it's the man, as is the natural way of things. Why add another man where she goes to perform services in order for resources? Like, does that not like baffle your fucking mind when you try and think of like the natural primal way of things? So imagine if we were like back in the tribes, the caveman times. It's you the caveman, her the cavewoman. The natural way of things is that you are the strong caveman. You can acquire the resources that are needed to survive, like protecting yourselves, getting food and water and safety. Now imagine that same situation, like visualize you caveman you and cavewoman her. And then there's just another caveman. You're not allowed to bash his skull because your cavewoman needs to go over to him and perform services for him. And he'll give her some berries that she can bring back to give to you and the family. How weird is that? Is that not really weird and strange? That's the modern contract that feminists have set up their own people with. And we're the misogynists. Yep, us. Guys who are working hard for women that they've not even met yet, just so we can like give them a good life. We're the misogynists. Okay. Another problem of feminism that I thought of was the promotion of sex work. So you've seen the massive rise of OnlyFans. But before that, you know what there was, right? You saw like the increase of simping online. The website Twitch, like the live streaming website, and there used to be like what used to be called titty streamers. It's supposed to be like a video game streaming website. So people play video games and they live stream it so people can watch them at the same time as they're playing it, right? So it's like, I don't know, it's fun to watch that. Women started hopping onto this website, but instead instead of playing games, they would sit there, make themselves look attractive, and they would receive more donations, like money from the viewers, than the people who were actually good at video games. You can imagine like that's, reality, that's the case, right? The rise of simping from feminism, because feminists promote women to do sex work. They think it's like, it's real work, it deserves respect. Sex work is not just like prostitution, but it is a lot of this like online manipulation, like receiving donations from young underage men and OnlyFans and all this. Feminists have promoted this. They've pushed for legislation that makes it easier. Do you know the consequences of that? This has caused simping, and I know simping sounds like some goofy term, but it's basically where a guy will overly invest in a girl by giving her resources like money, attention, when she doesn't really deserve it. So you can give resources like money and attention to a woman who is the mother of your children, and that's actually like absolutely fair enough. But if you're giving money and attention to a woman who doesn't even know you or like you, it's just using you for your wallet, not even having sex with her, not even being in a relationship with her, that's what simping is. All of this stuff, this Twitch thought, OnlyFans and more porn and all this, it's just led to so many guys simping. And now, do you know why that's a problem? Because you might be thinking, oh, well, it's those guys' fault. If they're just sending money to these girls, it's their fault, whatever. Women are getting paid money for their beauty, but not even for sexual services as prostitution, but just for the slightest crumb of attention. So these guys, these lonely, manipulated guys will send in a donation of like $20, $50, just so the girl live will say like, oh, thank you, Dragon Slayer, $50. That's it. Prostitution, which was paying a woman to have sex with her, that's always been a thing, and it probably always will be. Is it right? Is it wrong? That's not for me to decide. It seems to me that it has historically been a thing for thousands of years. I heard a quote that prostitution is actually like the oldest profession of humanity. It's kind of interesting. Do you know why this is problematic? Do you understand why? Because the more guys who are simps, who overly give attention and money to women without even receiving much in return, they kind of drive up, like they inflate the value of a woman. You know how you've thought to yourself, like a lot of women have got like huge entitlement and egos, like more than they should do, right? Like to use weird terms, like the stupid term, if a woman is a 5 out of 10, she should behave and think of herself like a 5. The problem is the woman who is a 5 out of 10 these days, she acts like she is an 8 or a 9. Why? Because of simps, because of the guys who have commented on her pictures, sent her messages, paid for stuff. A girl who is just moderately attractive now gets a rock star level of attention online. Rock star level is where you're getting literally thousands of fans, right? It's tens of thousands of fans. People are just giving you money for free. An average girl can have that these days. She can have 100 likes, 500 likes, 10,000 likes on her pictures. She just has to show a little bit more skin every time. So we have the simps who are inflating a woman's value and they're deflating a man's attention and money. So now you're seeing the problem. Guys are so lonely, so porn addicted, so deprived of good quality women because of feminism and all the other problems, that now guys have just dropped their standards low enough to just simp. And when they do that, which so many guys are doing, it basically means that your future wife is gonna feel too good for you because she's had an army of peasants who have been hyping her up since she was like 12 years old or some disgusting shit. Now, when you meet your girl, let's say you are both objectively, sorry to use the weird, autistic terms, but just to make it easy to understand. Let's say you meet your future wife and you're both objectively like an 8 out of 10 for like sexual market value, like what you bring to the table. She's not gonna want to be with you because she wants a guy who's a 10, but she's only an 8, but she doesn't believe it. Go find an obese woman. Click on the comments of her pictures and read them. You go, girl. Oh my God, so beautiful. Oh, so attractive, gorgeous. All these, they're getting hyped up like absolutely crazy. And you'd think that that could be a good thing because, it's like you're boosting someone's self-esteem, but it's not. It actually makes women miserable. I'm not saying to be like disrespectful to women and to call them ugly or anything like that. I very much think when you get your girl, you should praise her, you should give her a ton of compliments. I think if you ever saw me like interact with a woman that I love, not like me on a YouTube influencer bullshit, but like if you just happen to see me like at a restaurant one day, I genuinely think you'd be so proud of me. You'd be thinking like, like, holy shit. Like, she'd be staring into my eyes. I'm giving her so many compliments. I'm kissing her hand. You know, we're laughing, we're cuddling at the same time. Like, you'd see like such a cute relationship. And again, all the hate, yes, I had a relationship and we broke up. Whoa, oh my God, oh, okay, fair enough. That's crazy. Like, be careful of taking Hamza's advice, guys. Yeah, I had a breakup earlier this year. I'm not perfect. I make a lot of mistakes. Never said I didn't. In fact, every single one of my videos, I basically talk shit about myself and talk about the mistakes that I've made. Still, I think it's awesome to compliment a woman and to give her a ton of praises. But this overinflation is absolutely crazy. You could objectively bring so much more to the table than a woman who actually would have been into you, and she just won't even look your way anymore because she wants like the fucking 6'2" pretty boy guy who's got 100,000 followers on TikTok, but she brings none of that. She brings nothing to compete for that. Problem is, that guy will reply, and that guy will probably have sex with her. She gets validated thinking, wow, that cute guy, yeah, me and that cute guy. But she doesn't realize like she was just a one night stand for this guy. But her perception of herself keeps increasing because none of her girlfriends are gonna sit her down and say, listen, honey, you ain't all that. You need to work on yourself more. Guys aren't attracted to this. You've been hooking up, you've been staying up late, you've been drinking, you've been posting these pictures. No girl is gonna say that to her friend. If there's a girl out there who's like this, holy fuck, she gets my respect. It's kind of like affiliate marketing, where you start with you and then you want to get another person on and another person and another person. Kind of like a pyramid scheme. But instead of a pyramid, it's like a hoe. It's like a hoe scheme where it starts with one hoe and she encourages the other girl to be a hoe because then she feels less ostracized and alone because she is not a very ideal person. Then it's like this behavior, this toxic, like degenerate behavior just spreads. No woman is going to look to a friend and say like, oh, that's like hoe behavior. You should cut it out. Don't be a degenerate, you know, level up. They look to each other and they shame each other for not being more degenerates. Your future wife, when she doesn't want to go out to the club, her hoe friends are gonna encourage her. The same friends that you'll be introduced to, and their big smiles will try and manipulate you into thinking that they're like on your side and they're your friends too. They don't give a fuck. They are not your friends. Now, of course, I've got to give you a disclaimer. There can, of course, be a woman who's got really good quality friends. Her friends are devout Christians or Muslims, and they're telling her, like, oh, you know, like, follow God more and be more educated and whatever. Of course. But it seems to be the case that it's actually leaning way more on the sort of toxic friends, bad influences, rather than the good influences. Women haven't had like the masculine role models that you've seen, right? There's been people like me and like many other like influencers and guys who are teaching men to like level up and to behave right. And again, I'm not perfect at all, but I feel like I have made a pretty positive impact on the world by just spreading these lessons and sharing my mistakes with you so that you can do better than me. Women don't really have this. What I've seen from them is like, you know, the online influencing space. I'm sorry to say, but I'm very disappointed by like female influencers. I've been on the lookout for the last few years to see like, is there like a female Hamza, like a woman who's teaching women to be more feminine and less degenerate? I do see women who have the same kind of masculine personality, but they're teaching women how to be more masculine, and they're often like, you know, dropping in their little brainwashing of like, oh yeah, you know, don't date this guy, date, you know, they're normalizing casual sex and dating and everything. So I have yet to see like a good female influencer, and you know why? Because a very feminine woman who's not a degenerate is naturally not going to be the kind of person who grinds on social media. Like the female influencers, the female role models who are out there are very masculine because they're all very ambitious girls. Like they have to be, right? To compete in a very competitive industry like influencing and TikTok and YouTube. So you have these female influencers who are actually making the problem worse. They're putting more women in the toxic like hustle culture. I don't think hustle culture is even toxic. I think men should fucking work like dogs. Honestly, like maybe that's toxic. I'm just not a pussy. I come from like an immigrant family. I don't have like a pussy for a father. I've got a strong father. I come from like patriarchal Muslim roots, and I see a lot of weakness in men. I think hustle culture for men is a good thing, but for women is definitely not. Women shouldn't really grind in social media and the corporate world. And of course, if there's a woman who wants to do that, by all means go ahead, but we're talking about feminine women who want to be more feminine, right? So that's another problem. Again, it's like they don't have a good influence. They don't have good role models. Now, men didn't as well just a few years ago, but now there is so many young male influencers who are genuinely giving out like a really good message to the youth. Women don't have that, and maybe feminism is to blame, because there's just so much like rot in a lot of women's minds that if they saw a woman who's telling them like, you know, slow down, don't hustle as hard, try and find a good man, and, you know, don't hook up with guys, don't show your body online, that woman, you could imagine, would be attacked. Like, think about it. Imagine if there was a female influencer who literally made a video saying like, don't hook up with guys, don't post your body online, you know, like be modest and cover up your body. She would get attacked. And you know how I know this? Because every now and then I will see some subtle kind of piece of content which symbolizes like modesty in a woman, and everyone is just attacking her in the comments. Overall, we have your future wife who had these feminist friends who encouraged her to go out and have casual sex and travel to Greece and get fucked by this guy, and then New York by this guy, and then Dubai by this guy, and she's been promoted for this, she's taken her tops off, and you know, a little bit of sex work here and there, and body count goes higher, and she's not even that nice, and now she doesn't want to be traditional or feminine, so she's not gonna cook for you, and you meet. You're both an 8 out of 10, she thinks she's a 10. You're lonely. She's lonely. Nobody wins. This is the final straw that I have with feminism. We can individually look at like what a feminist argues. Like, okay, women should be like this, men should be like this, but that doesn't matter. We just need to look overall what happens to a woman who is a feminist or who goes through like feminist brainwashing. They end up miserable. Ask any of these girls, even really attractive girls, are you satisfied in life? How about your dating life? Like, you've had a lot of sexual freedom, you've got to fuck anyone you want. Are you really happy in your dating life? And they'll say, no, it's horrible, all guys are bad people, you know, no one wants a serious thing, they're miserable about this, oh, my workplace is miserable. Like, they're not happy. So women are worse off. Then you ask a guy, like, hey, are you happy with the dating scene? What do you think about women? And they're like, no, it sucks, I'm lonely as fuck. Because the girls that I thought I wanted, I realized that they're actually not even that nice to be with. It's weird, like they're actually kind of mean. They're actually kind of like masculine. They don't have the feminine traits that I'm really attracted to. And if I do get into a relationship with them, it's just like we butt heads. It's like they're weirdly trying to be competitive with me, that we should be on the same side. Maybe I'm sexist to say this, but it fucking hurts knowing that she's fucked guys before me. That she's like sucked off some guy that I know. Maybe I'm a misogynist, but that fucking hurts. We have guys saying that. Nobody wins. The women don't win. The men don't win. We both just took an L. Guess who wins? It's like the fucking commercial society. It's like the weird government or some shit, because they just doubled the amount of workers in the workplace. They're just getting paid more taxes. You know how supply and demand works. The more supply there is of something, the less demand there is, the less need to pay, right? Let's say there's 1 million men in a city working. They're all on minimum wage and they're all getting like $10. If we then suddenly send in 1 million women to work in this same city and they weren't really necessary, could you imagine that over 10 years, 20 years, the minimum wage would go up much? No, because we just drastically increased the supply. Why would you pay your workers $15, $20 when there'll be someone else who'll take it for 10? We just doubled how many people there are who need a job, and so jobs can still pay a very small, low amount. The only difference is like your government collects more tax now. Commercialism pops off because of all the problems we spoke about. Basically, it leads to like the destruction of family and love and having children and stuff, right? Well, think about how that impacts like commercialism. You would have had one house for your family. Now you're gonna get an apartment. Your future wife is in an apartment somewhere. You both are buying the TV, the computer, the microwave, the kettle. You're buying 2 of everything. Is this a conspiracy theory, or is this just what they, whoever the fuck they is, I don't know, they wanted this shit? Because now we just spend more money, and now that we're all depressed and we don't have family, we don't have religion, we sit at home, we consume content like this. Like, it's been fucking 40 minutes. It's been over an hour. You're just sat here watching this. If you had children, if you had like a wife, you'd be out playing right now. If you were living like a healthy life, you'd be happier, you'd be healthier, you'd be a more contributing member of society. And instead, you're just sat here just hating on women like for the last hour. Do you see how fucked the world is? And I swear, like, maybe I sound crazy, but I genuinely believe that how messed up the world is, feminism is one of the biggest reasons why. Maybe it's the sexist misogynist in me. Maybe it's like the small part of me that is like still Muslim, because that was my upbringing and I wouldn't really consider myself a Muslim anymore, although I do want to. Maybe it's the patriarchal part of me, like the immigrant mindset, the hardworking mindset that I've gotten from my family. It sounds disrespectful to say this, but maybe you don't give women what they say that they want. Honestly. Sounds awful to say that, sounds so bad, so sexist. This is what happens when you ask women, what do you want? And they start piecing together like their idea of what they want. They end up miserable, we end up miserable. The end. Top link in the description if you want to join the community and talk about this stuff, because it is very sad. I hope you subscribe to the channel, and I really, really appreciate the support that you've shown me. Like I said, I've made so many mistakes. I mess up all the time. I've never once tried to tell you that I'm some perfect guy. But I'm on this journey alongside you, just like you're on self-improvement. You go through rut and problems and mistakes and failures, so do I. And so I appreciate that you've been giving me this massive amount of support, because when you support me, my channel, you watch these videos fully, you're subscribing, sharing, whatever, you're helping me, you're helping my family business, which is just so wholesome. So I appreciate that. Do the hard work, especially when you don't feel like it. Mwah.